Good. Welcome everyone to another Midweek with Max. Unfortunately, don't have an exact date or tokenomics to share, but I do have some updates around that and internal progress. So I apologize. I understand it's frustrating. There's things moving internally that we're trying to collapse the wave on. So we do have final tokenomics, but we are waiting for one final internal review before we can publish those. So it's very close to the finish line, but unfortunately, we don't have anything to share today, but that's closer than it's ever been. So we're getting very close there, but unfortunately, don't have anything more exciting to share there. As far as internal progress, we have gotten the final. So just talking a little bit about the actual rollout process we're going to have going into TGE, because we do have more clarity on that I can share. So we are going to have the Mainnet Season 1 ending in the very near future. So we'll probably announce a date for that in probably by the end of this week. I understand timelines have shifted, so again, take that with a grain of salt, but things are still progressing internally and we're getting a lot closer. So we have a final date for the end of Season 1, Mainnet Season 1 very soon. And after that, basically, we're going to have that season close. We're going to announce details about the new season and kind of the gap bridge between Season 1 going into TGE, because we do need a bit of time to make sure all of the final incentive numbers are in. And then right after that, or shortly after that closes, we're going to have a claim page go live. So we've already developed the claim page that's currently in testing from the UI and smart contract side. So on the tech side, that's almost ready to go, just in final testing. And that's going to go live a bit before TGE, so everyone's going to be able to go and check their testnet and mainnet incentives. Also spent a ton of time with John over the last couple of days finalizing all of the testnet points. So we are waiting on one final export from Absence to fix a few edge cases, and then we'll have the final pop data published. So for now, 99.9% of people should be able to go to the old testnet pop stats page and see their pop points. But there was one small issue with the Absence export that we're going to rerun the pop points final calculation once we get one final export for them. So do go check that page. If you see anything off, please open a ticket and mention it, but do be aware that there's one more potential final export of that, which could be slightly different. So stay tuned for that, but do go check your testnet pop points today. And if you do notice any issues, please raise a ticket, because we're trying to get those finalized and closed out. And we do have internal tokenomics figured out for the testnet and mainnet season. We're just doing some final checks to make sure everything lines up as expected. And also on the node sale side, I do have a quick update there. So more details coming on that soon, but we've made some internal decisions on what we're going to do. And so stay tuned for that information. That's progressing. We're just basically checking the way that we're going to treat the node sale participants against the mainnet TVL provider incentives to make sure that everything lines up there. So expect more details on that very soon. And with that, unfortunately, no more exciting news to share there, but things are getting extremely close internally. And so with that, I will pass it back over to Rick to start going through questions.
Well, thank you, sir. We have 10,000 of them. I believe this was covered, what the current progress of tokenomics and TGE were. You did that in your recap. When does Mainnet Season 1 end?
In the very near future, there's basically a range of 5 days internally we're looking at. So don't want to announce anything until we actually decide on a final date, because things could move slightly, but it's going to be in the very near future.
All right. This is a big question. Feel free to be as brief or robust as possible. What is the future plan of Hemi?
How long we got? So super high level.
As long as you want, sir.
All right, we'll try to keep this one a little bit quick, and but super high level, basically on the roadmap for the relatively near future, the two major items are the BitVM based or HBitVM Bitcoin tunnel system. And so just a quick reminder on that. It's basically one event honesty, and there's some really cool stuff with the way that Hemi's tech stack is designed that makes us able to essentially play Bitcoin and Ethereum consensus against each other in a collaborative way, so each one keeps the other in check. And it makes it possible to construct very secure proofs of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Hemi state. And so that's a huge part of our BitVM approach, but it also uh, results in a lot of other really cool use cases of that proving system for other things in the ecosystem. So that could actually be used for, I know we've mentioned this briefly on past calls, and this will be covered in more detail in the upcoming HBitVM white paper. And we'll do a special edition engineering AMA to go over that in more detail. But super high level, okay, great, you can do all this amazing BitVM stuff, but also you could go build, a Ethereum light client that bootstraps without any weak subjectivity issues. You could build secure ZK proofs of Ethereum state that can't be manipulated by somebody who controls a lot of the validator power, creating a ZK proof where they can trick a remote validation system into thinking Ethereum looks one way without revealing a bunch of attestation data that could be used to slash them. You could also use it for super robust, super secure Bitcoin-like clients. So, one day you could have a Bitcoin SPV-like wallet on your phone that's powered by ZK proofs that Hemi's emitting that uses Ethereum to basically keep those proofs of Bitcoin state secure. So all kinds of super cool use cases there that flow out in the BitVM system. Also, that's going to require full ZK provability of the Ethereum network, or of the Hemi network rather. And so on the Ethereum settlement side, we can also use that to be a full ZK rollup to Ethereum. So BitVM basically comes with super secure Bitcoin tunneling that's super capital scalable, but also full ZK settlement to Ethereum as well. And the other major item on the nearish term roadmap is decentralizing the sequencer. And so basically letting everybody who's staking Hemi tokens participate in sequencing or producing blocks for the network. And then beyond that longer term, we have Chain Builder, which is Hemi's approach to the scalability and providing L3s in a much more flexible manner than a lot of the other, roll your own chain ecosystems. So letting you customize the execution environment, the DA system, the settlement system, proving sequencer decentralization, all of that with proof-of-proof security inheritance and access to all of the Bitcoin and Ethereum assets that Hemi L2 supports through its tunneling system. And then there's multiple items to that roadmap going forward. So there's, kind of Chain Builder MVP, which is basically Hemi as is with HVM with proof of proof as an L3 that people can deploy and use to scale out application specific DApps, asset transfers, payment channels, whatever in the Hemi ecosystem. And then future versions of that are allowing more of that flexibility, having more out-of-the-box options for customizability for different execution environments, different DA systems, et cetera, the stuff I already mentioned, and opening up, basically creating this global settlement system between all the L3s that meet certain standards for faster interoperability between them.
All right. Okay, so we have an entire section dedicated to Deimos rewards and points. If these are more geared toward Greenwood Max, just say Greenwood and we'll move on to the next one. But if there is anything you can provide for these, the community would appreciate it. So we'll start right at the top. Can we get an official number of how many people completed verification in Epoch 1 and separately in Epoch 2?
Let's see, I don't have the exact number between the epochs, I believe, and this number could be, slightly off by 5-10%, but I believe the total number of accounts that either did 1 or 2 verifications total is somewhere around 21,000.
All right. Here we go. I only participated on testnet and completed Deimos verification. Is this enough to receive rewards?
Yep, yeah, as long as you earned points in testnet and you minted a Deimos only me ID on testnet and then verified that at least once or twice for maximum rewards on mainnet, then yes, you'll be eligible for rewards from the testnet incentive pool.
All right. I missed the first Deimos verification period. What do I do?
If you missed the first one, but you did the second, you'll be eligible for some rewards, just not the maximum amount. So unfortunately, that is part of our anti-Sybil mechanism. There's reasons we have the, epochs for verification evolve over time, and that's to basically prevent people who are doing weird sorts of Sybil attacks with, groups of random people that they get to verify accounts. It makes it very hard to coordinate that over a long period of time with the same people to perform the same verification. So we're not going to be, opening up any more verification epochs or anything like that. But if you miss one epoch, but you did the other one, you will still be eligible for a portion of the testnet incentives.
All right, we're cruising. Okay, when claiming rewards, is it possible to change the wallet rewards they're claimed to? Unfortunately, my wallet was compromised and I have no way to move to a new address within Absinthe.
For something like that, I'd open a ticket. There have been some one-off cases we were able to resolve for people, but we also have had a lot of potential Sybils or, well, obvious Sybils looking at on-chain data, things in Deimos, which John Greenwood could speak more to. But we have had a lot of people reaching out with similar issues that ended up being Sybils. But if you do have a legitimate problem with a compromised wallet from testnet and you're having issues with updating like the primary wallet in Absinthe, because that system has been deprecated with the new Absinthe v2, definitely open a ticket and we'll see what we can do for you.
Well, thank you, sir. Okay, still on points rewards Deimos. Nope. Yep, here we go. My staking and LP points have not been updated for several days. Are points still being tracked?
Yep, yeah. So the actual source of truth is on chain. When we do close out Mainnet season 1, we're going to be re-verifying all of the data. We actually have a system right now that's still getting better, but it's basically two different sources of the data. One that we're running internally from different indexing systems and comparing that to Absinthe for a lot of the more popular DApps as a way to double check all of the data. So if you are providing liquidity in a protocol the way that's specified with the points program, it is being tracked. One thing to be aware of there, and I don't know the exact details, so this would be a John Greenwood question, but if you're providing liquidity that's out of range on liquidity pools, that may not be counted, which is intentional. We're only rewarding liquidity that's actually economically useful. So that'd be a question for John on the exact specifics of that, but do check if you are providing liquidity on DEX specifically that it is in range, so it is being counted.
Okay, the next question we have is, I lost my place. Nope, I found it. All right, sweet. Should we continue to verify our Deimos MEIDs after Epoch 2 has ended, which it has ended?
I think the answer to that's no. I defer to John again on that, but 99% sure the answer is the epoch is closed. Everyone who's going to do epoch 2 verification should have done it within the, epoch 2 verification time, which did end yesterday. So if you've missed it, it's there's a reason we have epochs and they have an end date as part of the anti-Sybil mechanism. So I would not recommend spending the money to go and redo a Deimos verification if you miss the second epoch, but I would defer to John as the final source of truth. It's not going to hurt anything if you do it, other than the cost on chain to actually do the verification. But if you did miss the end of epoch 2, there's a very good chance it's not going to be counted.
Okay, still in the same category. I burned my Deimos MEID from my old address because it was compromised, and I still cannot verify or mint my new MEID because of the 7-day waiting period. Due to this, I missed the verification period. What should I do?
Again, if it's an actual compromised account, I'd recommend you open a ticket. There is some stuff we can do for people in certain instances for that. So I would open a ticket and hopefully John can help with that. It's difficult because there's the pattern of people with compromised accounts a lot of times is very similar to people who are trying to orchestrate very sophisticated Sybil attacks. But if you do have a compromised account and there is some edge case that caused you to be unable to mint the only me ID and do verification or transfer the only me ID to a new non-compromised address, open a ticket and we'll see what we can do for you.
All right. Um, the next question, I believe you just answered, which is, what is the solution for compromised wallets to claim future rewards? That would be please open a ticket, and folks can see what they can do about that. Let's see. How do rewards for mainnet pop miners work? I cannot verify Deimos on my mainnet pop miner address, and as far as I know, there's no option to connect my mainnet pop miner address to Absinthe.
Don't worry about Absinthe for mainnet pop mining or points or Deimos verification. If you're doing mainnet pop mining and you're getting pop points on chain, that's all you need to do. Specifically for that, if you did testnet pop points as well under the same account, that's where Deimos applies. But Deimos, for the most part, Deimos is only relevant to testnet incentives. So on mainnet, you do get a little bit of a extra benefit from doing Deimos verification, but it's not nearly as important as it is for testnet. So the only people who will be getting incentives for testnet season are ones who have done at least one verification on mainnet. But if you're doing on-chain mainnet season one activities like providing liquidity, or if you're doing pop mining, which is on mainnet outside of the point system, Deimos, still recommend doing Deimos verification if you can, because there is some additional benefit to doing it, but it's not important. And specifically for pop mining on mainnet, it is not required at all.
All right, we have completed the Deimos points, etc. category. We have one partner question. What processes are in place for Hemi to review new partners, ensuring they are trustworthy, secure, and safe for the community to use?
Good question. We do review anyone we partner with. I'm not going to get into specifics, A, because I'm not in the day-to-day of that, and also B, if we talk about the specifics of things we look for, that makes it easier for people to game or manipulate potentially. But we do vet partners. There's a limited amount of vetting we can do for each partner, and it depends on where they are in the ecosystem, whether there's kind of informally levels to partners, based on what is their protocol doing, where does it fit into the economic model, what are the risks associated with that kind of application. So there is a vetting process, but depending on the DApp, it can be more or less formal. There's things we do, there's things we look at. We're looking at who's behind it, where else has this same DApp been deployed before, how's it been performing. We did integrate with Resonance, so still in the process of adding additional stuff to monitoring and everything in Resonance, but we're also using that. We're starting to use that as a platform for monitoring not just our own applications, but also on-chain activity and other DApps as well. So that's more of a, proactive monitoring of DApp activity if there is something wrong. Obviously, it's crypto. There's tons of things that can go wrong with a DApp. You can have a smart contract with a vulnerability in it. You can have a smart contract that was deployed incorrectly, even though were it to be deployed correctly, it'd work perfectly fine if it's, pointing to the wrong oracle or interpreting some oracle data incorrectly, or looking at the value of a sushi swap position as collateral and miscalculating the value of that in a lending protocol. So, there's a limit to how much we can do, but we do go through a vetting process that looks at team application, history of the DApp, stuff of that nature for protocols we do partner with.
All right, thank you for the clarity. Oh, we have an entire section called Future. All right, this is a new one. What is Hemi's plan post-TGE?
I'm going to assume this question's more focused on the token side, just because the mention of TGE, and I already went through sort of the brand roadmap plan earlier. So basically, tokens, as far as future roadmap as it relates to the Hemi token itself, a couple items. One, the Hemi token being used as the preferred gas token on the network. So that'll be a future feature, which basically the cheapest way to transact on the Hemi network will be using the Hemi token for gas. The Hemi token will also be used for basically all of the parts of the protocol that need people to lock up capital as collateral against misbehavior. So that's everything from being a sequencer to publishing data to Ethereum for DA purposes, to very far future chain builder running the shared sequencing shared DA system for chains. Hemi token is going to be used for pop mining L3s. So any L3s that are doing pop publications to Hemi as a security aggregation layer, that's going to be done in Hemi tokens, and there will be a burn mechanic as part of the game theory there. So basically, it's kind of similar spiritually to preventing wash trading. Like, you don't want a sequencer to be able to fill up their Hemi block with a bunch of pop publications from a chain that's not actually paying for those with its own native economics. And so you do need to burn a portion of the Hemi tokens that are paid in pop fees to prevent that or make that sort of behavior prohibitively cost prohibitive, basically. And it's also going to be used as collateral through this converged staking system, which is you put Hemi tokens in once, and then you can opt into all these parts of the protocol you want to participate in. So it'll also be used as collateral for people providing liquidity around the Bitcoin tunnel system post BitVM. So again, BitVM, the deposit withdrawal flow for BitVM is slow and expensive. So it's super secure, but you can only onboard large amounts and offboard large amounts of Bitcoin by you deposit 10 Bitcoin into a BitVM vault that pays for all of the construction and potential costs of opening that vault in the future and the capital that participants have to put up for that. And when you withdraw, you have to open the vault and withdraw the full amount from that vault. So in that case, it'd be 10 Bitcoin. So we're going to have a liquidity wrapper system around that. So people who are providing Hemi BTC to BTC liquidity to onboard and offboard smaller amounts around that, that'll also be based on Hemi token collateral in the converged staking system.
All right. Still on future. Oh, I like how this is set up. My dream for this is simple. I want to be able to take my best Hemi NFTs, lock them up, and earn passive income from them without ever selling. Is that a future Hemi is actively building towards, and what needs to happen to get us there?
So at the moment, there's not specifically something around NFT staking in the roadmap. We do have something that we're working on internally, which will have basically benefits for active on-chain users who have the Hemi NFTs. And so can't share any more details on that because it's still in the very early days of ideation. But basically, we are looking at a way for people who are active in the Hemi ecosystem to benefit from having certain Hemi network NFTs. At the moment, that design would not be a passive system. So it'd be, hey, you're providing liquidity and you've been a loyal community member. You have these NFTs from the project. There's some bonus or incentives around that. But it would be related to ongoing active engagement with the Hemi ecosystem and things that are economically valuable to the network.
All right. I just saw this one come in. Interesting question. I assume yes, but I don't want to speak for you, but will Midweek with Max continue after TGE?
Yes, 100%. And we're also going to start doing more regular engineering AMAs as well.
Great. I love that. I really like this show. All right. What are the ways the community can help Hemi?
Tons of ways. Obviously, anything on chain, providing basically the current mainnet point season, although it is coming to an end very soon, and there'll be a new season with new incentives and some things moved around. But anything that's under any of our active incentive programs, those are designed to create value for the ecosystem. So that's providing liquidity in valuable assets that creates opportunities for people to use Hemi for trading these assets, lending, borrowing, looping, yield farming strategies, anything of that nature. So definitely anything in the incentive program. The reason that those things are incentivized is because that is contributing to Hemi making it a place that has more liquidity, more opportunities to attract a large DeFi user base to come and engage with it and generate revenue for those protocols, because liquidity begets trading, trading begets liquidity. You need that flywheel spinning, basically. Beyond that, tons of non-economic things. Obviously, there's people can contribute to the actual tech side of it. So pretty much everything about Hemi is open source. And so if you want to go and review and contribute to any part of Hemi in that area. People are more than welcome. We're always accepting quality PRs that fix bugs, add interesting features. If you don't want to contribute to the actual like core protocol tech, you can also build something brand new on Hemi. So if you're a DApp developer, if you know Solidity, you know, building something new with HVM or just building a new DeFi application in general that does something new, interesting, cool, and deploying that on Hemi, we will have I don't have a exact date on this, but it is a high priority. We'll have a more formal grants and bounty program for developers. And so one of the parts of that's going to be, here's a bunch of cool HVM-based applications that we'd like to see somebody in the community build and run. So anything from a non-custodial Bitcoin asset DEX or a non-custodial lending protocol to an MEV marketplace or a smart wallet customizable custodianship system for certain like on-chain Bitcoin wallet controlled by third-party bonded custodian use cases. So we'll have a list of those things that we basically have a super high level like spec for of here's how it would work, here's how you use HVM, here's things to be aware of. Maybe in some cases a non-production grade prototype to look at as an example. And then if anyone wants to take those specific HVM apps and run with that, that's an awesome way to contribute to Hemi. Also, if you're building anything else that doesn't fit into the ideas we have around HVM, that's totally awesome too. We'd love to hear from you and work out bounties, grants, ways to, depending on the DApp, incentivize your community. So that's a great way. Obviously, social media, talking about Hemi, educational content's huge. If you want to write or create videos or tutorials for how to use Hemi, Hemi's features, interesting things about Hemi that set it apart with Bitcoin programmability or the tunnel system or anything like that. That kind of quality content is also huge. There's tons more ways beyond that as well, but I think that probably covers the major ones.
All right. Where are we at? Okay, what makes Hemi's approach to programmable Bitcoin unique compared to other projects?
I love this question. We probably do this every other week, but basically, there's two major approaches to Bitcoin programmability. So there's take Bitcoin and wrap, bridge, tunnel it in some way that it becomes an ERC20 or the equivalent of an ERC20 on other networks that then you can just use in DApp protocols the same as you use, USDC or wrapped Ethereum or whatever. And so huge use case, tons of value there. And that's where most of the Bitcoin L2s focus on. So of course, that's one of the ways that you can program Bitcoin on Hemi. But there's another way of programming Bitcoin that is very underserved in the space, which is this more native Bitcoin programmability where you're actually looking at what's happening on Bitcoin, you're responding to on Bitcoin events, you're incentivizing on Bitcoin events, you are collateralizing users who should perform certain actions on Bitcoin or your protocol in the correct way, and you're monitoring Bitcoin to see that they've done something correctly before you release the collateral or release funds from escrow on the smart contract side. And so that lets you build all kinds of new Bitcoin DeFi applications that are either, depending on what you're doing, they're either more capital efficient, more secure, faster, in some cases more gas efficient. And so the example I always love to give because it's relatively easy to understand is the non-custodial Bitcoin DEX. So you could build, and like on Hemi today, we have DEXs where you can trade Hemi BTC for ETH or USDC or USDT or whatever. But you could also design a system where somebody has Bitcoin natively in their Bitcoin wallet. They prove to a smart contract, hey, I have 0.1 Bitcoin, and I want to sell it for 5 ETH or whatever. And then you could have somebody else take the other side of that trade and say, okay, I want to buy that 0.1 Bitcoin. I'm going to put up my 5 ETH in escrow in the smart contract. I'm going to communicate my Bitcoin address to the smart contract so the smart contract knows, okay, the Bitcoin seller should send that 0.1 Bitcoin minus fees to this address within a certain time period. And if they do that, then the person who sent the Bitcoin, and that's direct peer-to-peer from the seller to the buyer, and the smart contract's monitoring that using HVM's Bitcoin awareness. And so if the Bitcoin seller moves the Bitcoin to the correct destination within the time period, And great, the trade's closed, the 5 ETH is released from escrow to the Bitcoin buyer, and you just completed a peer-to-peer trade without any sort of tunneling involved. You can do it very, very quickly on Bitcoin. It's native delivery directly from the seller to the buyer on Bitcoin, made possible by Hemi's knowledge of Bitcoin through HVM. There's other use cases of that as well. So more complex construction can be used for doing Bitcoin-based lending. So either borrowing Bitcoin against HVM side assets like, again, ETH, USDC, USDT, or flip it around, putting Bitcoin in some secure escrow system and then borrowing USDC, USDT, ETH, whatever against that. And you can do that in a way that never requires actually bringing that BTC on-chain through tunneling. So tons of value in having tunneling and being able to program that version of Bitcoin. But you also have this brand new model of Bitcoin programmability with complete access to the UTXO table, being able to look at data that's not efficiently provable in any way, the way that Bitcoin's data structures are built, that lets you design these new sort of direct peer-to-peer applications with Bitcoin, and in the future, meta protocol stuff like ordinals, BRC20s, runes, etc. So in summary, two programming models. Everyone focuses on the first. There's tons of value there. We do that, but we also have the second way of programming Bitcoin that's much more bare metal, peer-to-peer. There's a lot of benefits for certain types of applications, and you can't do that without very deep, easy access to Bitcoin data, which is not available anywhere else but with HVM and the embedded indexed Bitcoin full node that's running inside of our EVM.
All right. This one we definitely answered last week from my recollection, but will Hemi use the Hemi token as gas from day one of TGE?
Not from day one, that'll be coming as a future feature. So near-term roadmap, but not TGE day one.
All right. Open source category. How can I contribute code to Hemi? Where do I find the repositories for certain components?
Good question. So everything is in the Hemi Labs organization. So I don't know the exact number of repos off the top of my head, but probably the main ones to look at, depending on where you want to contribute. The Hemi network repo is all of our new daemons that we're adding into the mix, as well as some other stuff in there. So if you want to contribute to TBC, for example, which is the embedded Bitcoin full node that runs inside the EVM, or if you want to contribute to the pop miner, or if you want to contribute to BFG, all of that's in the Hemi network repo. If you want to contribute to the more EVM, code from Optimism that's been adapted to Hemi with HVM features, proof of proof, etc., that's split between the OpGap and Optimism repos. And then if you want to contribute to any of the smart contract systems, so say the Bitcoin tunnel smart contracts or the smart contracts for various things like in Pure Finance or some of the other on-chain things, those are in their own repos. You can go find those. And then there is also, if you're looking at smart contract side, there is some smart contract stuff in the Optimism repo, but a lot of that's not stuff that we're actively working on as part of Hemi. Most of that comes from Optimism, so there's probably limited stuff to contribute on that side. But yeah, I'd recommend that's kind of the lay of the land for all the major components. But I'd definitely just take a look, scroll through the Hemi network or Hemi Labs organization, and see all the repos there. Pretty much all of them are named in a way that's pretty clear what part of the ecosystem they are. And some of that stuff's demos. Some of that stuff's old toy applications like crypto chords or Hemi hatchlings from testnet. So those things are not being actively developed, but there's still useful, interesting stuff in there if you want to build, say, like an HVM based application or whatever. There's some cool stuff in there that shows how do you talk to nodes, what data are you looking for in the Hemi hatchling case, how do you look at Bitcoin finality data, stuff like that.
All righty. Does Hemi contribute code to other open source projects?
We do probably the biggest one, and I don't know, Marco, if you want to jump on any of this, but would be BTCD. So BTCD is actually, since Marco, you're on stage, I don't know if you want to hop in and explain that, because that's you're in John JCV's baby.
Yeah, I can expand on that, though. I did miss the first few seconds of the questions. Can I get a repeat real quick?
Absolutely, sir. Does Hemi contribute code to other open source projects?
Oh, yeah. So, yes. So, the first thing to note, though, is that TBC itself is a pretty gigantic, actually, the whole Hemi network is a pretty gigantic open source piece of software. So we provide all that for the community, obviously, to use, to read, to learn from, and to expand upon. So, and we do contribute back at this point towards BTCD, which is a very old Bitcoin daemon that I worked on decades ago with John, and we use bits and pieces. And for example, we helped testnet 4 to come online over there. So yeah, we fix issues in upstream packages, and we contribute that back. Joshua does that quite a bit as well. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks for hopping in. And in the future too, there's going to be, I know I keep talking about the ZK provability and all the stuff that comes with HBitVM, but there's tons of cool stuff in there that will be applicable to other projects. So that's going to be, instead of, that being contributions that are upstream somewhere else, that will be sort of a focal point of a sort of public goods repo improving system that we maintain, that a lot of other people doing all kinds of crazy things in the DeFi ecosystem will probably benefit from. And so that'll be basically this public good of very secure Bitcoin and Ethereum, and for our case, Hemi ZK provability that people can adapt and use in all kinds of different cool applications. And so I expect that to be a good source of a lot of other teams contributing bug fixes, feature improvements, et cetera, back to that sort of public good Bitcoin, Ethereum improving system.
Right. And I do want to expand on that. Just one thing, and I'll hand it over to John. So I'm actively working on this ZK provability, and there are a lot of moving parts that are coming out of it that are going to be very useful, even outside of this project, for other folks.
And then I wanted to say that, our policy is, if someone is working on something and they have a change to some third-party thing, upstream it. Every line of code that you keep internal and that you don't upstream is absolutely a liability and will bite you in the ass eventually. We don't keep anything that we could upstream private. So if we use a random, whatever JavaScript, whatever people do in JavaScript, and someone we find a bug in there, the team has always known and always does their best to upstream it. And, BTCD is just one of the bigger ones that, honestly, we probably could put a little more into it. And, I care about BTCD as one of the remaining maintainers of it. But, in general, yeah, if we can put something upstream, if we can contribute to open source, the whole point, crypto comes out of open source. The whole point of it is open source. If you're doing crypto and you're not doing open source, there is no reason to trust it. Like, that is just it. That is, 100%. Crypto minus open source is nothing.
All right. Well, we're still in open source. Does Hemi contribute financially to open source software? That's not easy to say. Let me start that over. Does Hemi contribute financially to open source software used by Hemi, whether it be dependencies or software used internally?
So, at the moment, we don't put any, we're not funding any non-Hemi projects. Yes, people on the team, if they put a little of their work time into non-Hemi projects that we use, that's awesome. We love it. I, don't tell my boss, but I have obviously reviewed BTCD PRs on the clock. But we're not actively funding any other projects. It's not something we're opposed to. The whole tragedy of the commons thing, it's not easy to keep projects going. So, if we were ever in the position to, you never know, but it's not an active thing at the moment.
Well, I do want to expand on that a little bit too, though. So I think we have enough people on the team that will make a slightly stronger statement than John just did in saying that we kind of require to be working on open source things sometimes in our boss's time, because we use obviously the software that they wrote, and we should therefore contribute back and help out. So and I honestly cannot remember in the last 20 years that I've worked in places that I was not always actively working on open source, and wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's the yes. We absolutely 110% like, if you're using a library or tell, Marco, I'll pull one that I know you've done in the past. If your shell doesn't do what you want, everyone on the team knows they should, absolutely can and should take the time to fix it, commit that upstream, and whatever. And any project that doesn't want to do that can go to hell. Like, there's no reason to deal with them. Like, we want that. That is the way we work, because we're open source people. A good chunk of us were doing open source before we even heard of crypto. So, that's not going to change, and that won't change, and that shouldn't change.
All right. I particularly like the projects who don't do this can go to hell part. That was great. Well, here we go. Should I open source projects I build on Hemi?
I think
Yes,
you know the answer
always.
to that. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, always. That's the answer.
If it's not open source, we're not going to look at it, for one thing. Like, if you send me a link to a private repo, for example, and you're like, hey, do you want to look at this? No, I don't want to look at it. Send me a link to an open source thing. Do you want to look at it? Yes. Yes, I do.
I was really hoping you were going to add or you can go to hell after that, but
I try to be nice. Jesus, Rick.
I don't know. It would have been nice. Hold on. I got one more kind of open sourcey question. Why can't we make a token burn mechanism where burned amounts get deducted from the total supply? That seems open sourcey.
So a couple different aspects to this. So there's the technical side, there's the tokenomics side, how it fits into the actual, flow of tokens in the ecosystem. So there will be a burn mechanic for the Hemi token for chains that are using it to pay for POP publications to Hemi L2 as a POP security aggregation layer. So there will be areas where the tokens burn. Also, if there's, as I mentioned before, the Hemi token is going to be used as essentially collateral to participate in doing things for the Hemi chain that are beneficial, like running a sequencer, doing DA publications to Ethereum, providing liquidity for the liquidity wrapper around the Bitcoin tunnel system, potentially other liquidity systems in the future. It's going to be used for the shared sequencing, shared DA system for Chain Builder. And all of those also have, as part of the game theory mechanics behind them, if you misbehave, a portion of your tokens are going to be, depending on the protocol and the type of misbehavior, either burnt and or a portion of those distributed to a harmed user or harmed group on the network. So for example, if you're providing liquidity and you have $1,000 worth of Hemi tokens as collateral and you're providing liquidity to onboard 70% of that value, so $700 worth of, say, Bitcoin liquidity for users at a time, meaning the total outstanding in-flight liquidity that you're facilitating is $700. If you were to misbehave, a portion of that would be burnt by the protocol, and a portion of that would be then distributed to the user who, you didn't deliver the right Bitcoin or the right Hemi BTC to within the allotted amount of time, and then they need to reroute that transaction, and they suffered opportunity cost and delays from that, and so they get a portion of your tokens, and a portion of them would be burnt. So there will be burn mechanics. From a technical perspective, there's obviously nothing hard about making a token that burns in certain events, and the Hemi token will be burnable from a technical perspective. But if you're asking more specifically about like the model of having a token that burns on transfer, like there's a fee taken out of it or whatever, there's tons of ways around it. So you basically just end up creating a system where people who are trading the token are putting it in a contract and then trading shares of that contract basically. And so the token's never actually transferring, so that burn mechanism is not engaged. So projects have tried that. I think looking way, way, way back in the day, there was I want to say the project was called Freecoin, FREICOIN. They were the first ones to try like an on-transfer burn mechanism. And tons of people have tried it since. It basically never works. It's always a problem. It also creates interoperability issues. So if you have a token that every time you transfer it, there's a portion of it that's burnt as a transfer fee or something, then you have issues where when you bridge that to other networks, all of a sudden you lose one-to-one pegging of the underlying token to the remote token. Obviously, in those cases, the remote token would not have the burn mechanic in it. So that's another way to get around it. So there's no good economic reason to build that sort of a burn mechanic in, and it creates lots of problems. So we're not going to be doing that, although technically it's easy. It's basically, there's no point, it creates complexity, and there's tons of ways around it anyway. But there will be parts of the ecosystem where tokens are burnt for different purposes as part of maintaining proper incentive alignment in different sorts of decentralized systems where the Hemi token is used as collateral or as payment for POP publications.
All right. And before we close out the open source section, John, Joshua, do you guys want to plug the builder role? And note, I will allow get the builder role or go to hell based on John's previous comments.
I can't think of any better way to to advertise the role than that. I think you covered it.
All right, and Joshua just posted the actual info in chat. There we go. Hold on, Josh, can you take a look at chat real quick? What Alex is referencing? I don't have it in my queue, I don't believe. Okay, next section. It says NFTs, but we're going to call this the NFT/miracle section because I imagine he's asked most of these, but here we go. When can we expect utility of Hemi hatchlings to be implemented?
So just speaking more broadly about Hemi NFTs in general, so that's Hemi hatchlings, I broke Sepolia, some other NFTs. We are working on like I mentioned earlier, a system where those are part of like an ongoing incentives system. And so if you're active doing things on chain, having those NFTs would have or confer some benefit. So no additional details to share this time because that's still in the early stages. But that's the direction we're currently going with the project NFTs.
Art doesn't need utility. Sometimes existence is sufficient. I like the Hemi hatchlings. They were doing something cool. If they are just a cool piece of art that was, showing off some detail about security, I can think of a lot of things that exist for much worse reasons.
All right. Well, if you thought we were done with Hemi hatchlings, oh boys, we are not.
Well, Hemi hatchlings? I read everything about those damn things. After just nice things about them. I take it back.
You're not done yet, bud. Will Hemi hatchlings NFTs play a role in supporting Hemi Network's growth? Please tell Miracle specifically.
That's a pretty vague question. I'd say the answer is yes, because there will be and again, details TBD, it's still in the early days, but there will be something where those NFTs are used in conjunction with on-chain activity for some benefits. So in that way, yes, it contributes to growth, but that's a little bit of a tricky question. Like everything on Hemi that you can do, play with, interact with, all of that contributes to Hemi growth in some way. So I'd say, yes, but that's in the same way that everything on Hemi contributes to growth. I don't know if anyone else has maybe a more specific answer to that question, but
I have a more specific answer to it. That is up to you guys. That is up to the community. You decide which pieces you like and which pieces, grow and contribute versus which pieces were just beautiful experiments. I don't get to decide what NFT is a success and, really leads to growth. Believe me, if I could, I have some choices I would have made. Otherwise, that's up to all of you. If you, love the Hemi hatchlings, do something with it. Trade them, buy them, do whatever the hell people do with NFTs. I don't know, but, build something with them. Make it a part of Hemi or a part of something you're going to do with Hemi, and then they will contribute to Hemi growth.
All right. Do NFT stuff or go to hell is what I heard from John. We're not letting that go for a little bit. Oh, we have another Hemi Hatchlings question. Sorry. Will the Hemi Hatchlings NFTs remain as limited as they are now, or are there plans to increase the supply in the future?
They will remain limited. So all of the Hemi hatchlings in existence today, at least for, again, you never know with future things. Like maybe there's another thing that we do under the Hemi hatchling name, and it's like a new, series with a new artwork or whatever. But for the current Hemi hatchlings, the 4 different editions of it, the current supply is the total supply forever of those NFTs.
A generation 2 would be, with new artwork and everything, would be kind of cool.
It would be really cool. I mean, we do have several really talented creators, so just saying. We could contest that if it's something you guys are open to. Just saying.
That'd be fun. We should do more like on-chain, art projects or cool, more creative things versus just purely build a D app, right?
That would be sick, because I mean, I can like just rattling off a couple people from my head, like, I mean, Gladdy, like Mr. Dollar, like all these amazing folks we have who have the creative roles. Like if we launched like a design the next generation of Hemi hatchlings, that'd be pretty sick. Definitely something to consider. We are not done with NFTs. Can you give us a hint about the new NFT marketplace launching on Hemi?
I can't at the moment. If we had John Greenwood, he may be able to provide some more info on that. But I know there is something in the works. It's not my area of expertise, but there is definitely something coming there, but I don't have any details to share.
All right. This is in the other section. During the first days of the project, it was possible to deploy a little contract, Hello World tutorial, was on the official documentation. Can we expect a surprise if we have done it on testnet?
I'm trying to think back. I think we had done a thing in the very early days, possibly where if you had deployed a contract, and you submitted a ticket or did something with one of the old incentive systems we were using, we got testnet points for it. So I don't know the exact details of that off the top of my head. I think that was, if there were points around that at that time for doing that task, then you should have gotten points for that through whatever incentive tracking mechanism we were using. But it's been over a year since that, so I don't remember the details on that exactly. I think that might have been something with, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of there's a system we were using for like manual verification of stuff for a while, and then we ended up moving on because it wasn't working very well, but it required a lot of the team's time to manage. But if you did that and it was part of the incentives, you should have gotten points for that. But I don't remember the details on that.
All right. To close out what I have in the hopper regarding the Hemithic role. When Hemithic role. So actually we have a slight update about that. First and foremost, it's still being worked on, but the update is the Discord wallet link system required for members to claim the role is now officially in the works. We'll post an update as soon as we're closer to releasing it. Joshua or JCV, would you like to chime in and elaborate further? You can also tell me to go to hell.
I wasn't listening, so no. But if you repeat, maybe.
Are you kidding me? What the hell were you doing?
I was answering something on Slack, damn it. So I have no idea any of what you said. I just heard my name.
You're on stage during an AMA. Okay, hold on. We'll try it again. All right, so the question was when Hemithic role, and to which I said it's still being worked on. The Discord wallet link system required for members to claim the role is in the works. We'll post an update as soon as we're getting closer to releasing it. Would you like to elaborate further on that?
Okay, now that I've heard what you said, no, that kind of sums it up pretty thoroughly. You know, the stopper is that Discord, you know, the tooling around Discord, which, you know, Joshua is actively working on, but as always, we're all working on so many different things that, you know, none of them happens to, and they don't always happen at the speed we want because, again, we're all working on so many different things. So unfortunately, no useful update, but it is still, you know, still in the works. Not forgotten, not abandoned.
But the update is the system is actively being worked on. Like there's a thing in place. It's happening. It's just,
okay, and then that is an update. So sure.
That's definitely an update.
All right. I thought the local standard was higher than that. My apologies.
No, that's the update. Josh, you got anything to add to that? Please? Oh my God in heaven. Okay. Well, well, thank you guys for the backup on that one. All right. I think that's all we got. Yeah. Q is clear as far as what I've been given. Well, let me thank our mods and helpers because Jesus, it's been a hell of a 2 weeks. Anubis, Ajit, Alex, Avi, Creator, Excalibur, Fox, aka Thanos, Funky, Hadu, Koki, Lyco, New Size, No Tears, Yahoos, and for what the hell, the intern too, even though he's not here anymore. Well, he's here. He's just on Twitter. No one freak out. He's still here. He's just on Twitter. Okay, I thought I was going to get lit on fire for saying that. I mentioned Excalibur. Of course I mentioned Excalibur. He's great. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, dude. What are you reading Slack with JCV? What's going on here? Okay, well anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to Max, Josh, Margot, and JCV for outros, and thank you all so much. As always, we will have hopefully a bigger community update next week. And by that I mean we'll have a community update next week. And we can get back to Rap God and stuff. The best I could do right now is tell you about my week off last week where I got stung by about 33 bees, got a concussion twice, and fell off a 15-foot ladder. Actually, I just told you, so there it is. There's my update. All right, take it away, gentlemen.
Dear God, you should stop taking vacations then. If that's what happens to you. My God. All right, awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for another Midweek with Max. Fortunately, we didn't have updates around tokenomics and TGE beyond just some internal progress on a lot of the important things on the tech side to actually get there, which are moving along and looking good. Hopefully, update on that in the very, very near future. Things are converging and coming to a close, but things take time, third-party dependencies, a lot of moving pieces, but waves are collapsing. We're getting there. So thanks everyone for joining us. Also stay tuned for the HBitVM white paper coming in the near future. Basically, JCV's been chasing me to write a conclusion for coming on a little over a week now, which I got to get done and review it, and then we should be publishing that in the very near future and doing a special edition engineering AMA around not only HBitVM and that technology, but also more generally some of the new cool ZK provability stuff, playing Bitcoin and Ethereum consensus against each other and what that could contribute to the broader crypto ecosystem. So looking forward to getting that out there and having that discussion. And stay tuned. A lot of exciting announcements and news coming in the very near future. And we will see you next week.
And Max, I only want like 1 or 2 paragraphs. That's it from you. I also think we should.
But they've got to be really good. So
got to be the best ones because people. Right, you read the beginning and the end of a paper, but also I think we should be crowdfunding to gather up enough nerf to completely cover Rick's surroundings to keep him safe.
Well, we're gonna have to bubble wrap Rick.
None of this was my fault. I was in the middle of moving. I discovered 2 bees nests the hard way, let's just say. Got the bees eliminated, and then I was painting the other day, and I slipped off a ladder and hit my head. And then when I finally got into my new place, I slipped in the shower and hit my head again, and I've had nosebleeds ever since.
Oh
So
my god.
I agree with the bubble wrapping of me because I'm collapsing upon myself like a dying star, and that one's for you, JCV. You know, with the whole black hole
Thank you.
scientist shit. See, I got you, bud.
This
I
is why I
appreciate
don't
you
leave my
talking in
house,
terms
but
I understand.
I was gonna say that's why I don't leave my house, but this happened to you at your house, so
This happened to me literally at my house. So, yeah, that's good. But thank you all so much for your time, your patience, and everything else. Be nice to our mods. The most accurate information you're ever going to get is from these AMAs and from the announcement channels. So continuously asking them the when questions, they're not going to know. I'm not going to know. You're going to get the information directly from the team when the information's available and not before. So when it's available, you'll get the information. And it'll be accurate, and it'll be complete, and yay. That's all I got. Rock and roll, buckaroos. Take care, y'all. See you next week.
awesome. Thanks everyone.